Hello, I'm Jeff Small, and welcome to the first edition of City Matters, the show where we get a chance to sit down with City of Ferguson officials and talk about the issues that affect the entire community. And we're going to start today with the Honorable Mayor James Knowles, the third mayor. Thanks for joining us. Mayor, we've got a lot of things we could ask you, but first let's go to some of the things that are positive, that people may not have heard about, or some things that they may not have heard enough about, some of the changes that have been made. What sticks out to you?
Well, from the beginning, a lot of people talked about some of the issues that people felt were important to look at with our court system. And we've seen some changes statewide, but I think it's important that people recognize that the city of Ferguson started looking at our courts, some of our fines and fee structures, some of the way we do business, some of the way our judge was doing business, and we started making changes last September. And so we really took the initiative to get out in front, streamline our fines and fees, remove some of the administrative court costs and fees that were involved and made the process a little onerous on residents and people who came through our court system, and tried to make the court system more inviting and more friendly so that people maybe who got a ticket didn't get caught in that cycle that people have felt that they were getting caught in municipalities across the state even. And so even though the state legislature started to take a look at that, and some of those changes were made and came into effect in August of 2015, the city of Ferguson really took the initiative and started making those changes last September 2014, and so we're very proud of that. We do have a new municipal judge who is working very diligently to make sure that people who come through our system know that what their rights are, know what the process is, so that it is more fair and more inviting. I mean, nobody wants to be in court. It's not a pleasant experience, but people should feel at least like that they came through, were treated fairly, and leave with at least a positive opinion in the way that the city of Ferguson conducts business, especially in its courts.
Also, and I guess with there have been personnel changes too, and I guess is that in your mind bringing back stability? How important is that too?
Well, stability is extremely important, and we're still in the process of hiring a permanent city manager. I think once we get our permanent city manager in place, both the employees and the citizens will feel that they know that there's stability at the top. We've been able to have some very good interims who have stepped in and really helped keep the ship going forward, moving this community forward. And so that's been extremely important too, but very soon we should have a permanent city manager in place. Shortly after that, we'll be having a permanent police chief in place. And I think those two things will really help set the stage for us moving forward.
All right. On the other flip side of that, what are some of the challenges that I guess there may be many, but what sticks out to you among the biggest challenges that remain?
Well, the biggest challenge is always going to be financial right now. There's obviously been a lot of unexpected costs over the past year. That's really ate into a budget reserve that the city has built up through excellent financial management over the past decade. That's unfortunately dwindling. We do have to look at the way we do business and how we can be more effective while also being more efficient. There will possibly be, we will have to make some tough decisions on either generating new revenue or cutting services for the community. But after we examine all of those options, our goal is to bring the community in to have a community conversation about what those options are so that the community can be bought into the process. There are a number of options out there, and I think that all of those, even with those tough decisions being made, what we will see is a financially stable community going forward that still has a high level of services to our residents and is still very affordable to our residents. And so very confident in that, but we want to make sure that the residents are part of that process.
And I think you and I both know that there have been a lot of different reports about the finances, some correct and some just didn't quite hit the nail on the head. How difficult has that been? Because I think that gives people the wrong impression sometimes about just how bad things are and can recover.
And so, the city of Ferguson, again, because we had such a strong and robust economy for years, we were able to put away money for a rainy day. Well, it's been raining. The city of Ferguson still does have a number of options available to us to, again, streamline the way we do services. There are revenue generating options out there that will help us. And residents are going to have to make some tough decisions, but the truth of the matter is we're in no more difficult situation than a lot of other communities have been recently. And it's somewhat new to us, but the city of Ferguson, we've been pretty tough. through this past year, I have a feeling going forward, our residents and our businesses will continue to be resilient. Business has picked up for our businesses. Revenue has picked up with some of the commercial corridors, which is important. And so there is a bright outlook. Right now, it's still a tough go. There are new businesses coming into town. The Centene project that's was planned and now being completed. Starbucks. There's going to be the new loft complex that's being constructed next to Andy Worm across from Vincenzo's, and that's going to bring in again some more commercial bays in the bottom for either retail or restaurants, and then on top, I believe it's 28 units for more residents to come, move, live in the downtown portion of our city. And then on the horizon we still are committed to that West Florissant and Great Streets corridor program, which the engineering is being done right now for a portion of that's in Ferguson. As we move forward, hopefully we'll see that entire project from the Jennings border all the way up to 270 get completed. But I'm very confident that we'll see a lot of that development in the next couple of years along the Ferguson corridor right there in front of Canfield. And so all of that on the horizon is very important for the city's financial future, and I'm very confident in that.
Do you think, would you say it's going to be a tough sell to convince people to move into the city? There are folks here who said they're going to stay. They don't want to uproot, but people to move to Ferguson. Do you think that's going to be a tough sell? Or?
I would have imagined it was, but at the same time, there's a lot of the real estate that's being bought and sold right now. The prices that people are getting is very encouraging. Housing values had not fallen like you would have expected, like some people had expected. There hasn't been the number of people moving out like you and maybe would have expected. I know somebody who just sold their house for asking price within 7 days, and it was almost a $200,000 house. That's extremely encouraging. People over the past year would have said that would have never happened, especially after what's gone on in Ferguson. So there are people of all backgrounds and financial capabilities and that are all looking at Ferguson, wanting to invest in Ferguson, either their businesses or their homes. That's very encouraging, and I think as we go forward, we'll see that play out.
You've met and been interviewed by journalists from around the world, literally. Most of it, I think it'd be fair to say, don't have probably the perception of Ferguson that you and I may know. Does that bother you when they come in with kind of what they assume Ferguson is going to look like, people are going to act like, and then they see something that's not really what they thought?
It does bother me that people have that perception, but I think what's really exciting is when they get here and then they're surprised. And so especially now that everything is calmed down and people are able to come here and see Ferguson for the community that I've lived in for 35 years, people show up and they say, where's the destruction, the mayhem, where's the destitute? This is a beautiful community. People from all walks of life living, playing, working together, shopping together, coming out to our city events. People didn't expect that. People expected a divided community. They expected a extremely poor community. They expected to see our commercial corridors completely destroyed or in disarray. And even at the heart of where the damage was during the November unrest, it's been cleaned up. We're moving forward. Buildings are being built. And so we're very excited about that. And I'm excited to show people the truth.
What about a number of folks have stepped up to say that they want to help? And is it difficult to channel that, or what do you tell people to say, hey, I want to help Ferguson?
Well, I tell everybody to call the city hall and work with the communities, or work with the community leaders, so that we can try and organize those efforts in the most efficient and effective way possible. There are a lot of people who have resources. They're not sure how to deploy them. They're not sure how to connect with people in the community who need those resources. And so we always tell people to come through the city. The city will help point you in the right direction, help connect you with those people who need the resources. The city of Ferguson has always been able to do a tremendous amount with relatively small amount of resources because of the strength of our business community, because of the strength of our residents and local community partners. Now more than ever, we need those people to stand up and step up to help us and to help their fellow citizens, and they are. But we encourage them to contact the city. We'll help you get in touch with the people who need those resources, and we'll continue moving this community forward.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to take a break real quick. City Matters will be right back.
In Ferguson, we're serving up happiness. In Ferguson, we're serving up hospitality.
In Ferguson, we're serving up peace.
In Ferguson, we're serving up optimism.
In Ferguson, we're serving up change.
Ferguson is our home, and you're always welcome here.
Okay. I'd like to finish school, but with kids and a job, I can't find the time to go to class. I have a few hours here and there. I would have to drive, park, and try to make it on time. Whoa, like that's a lot to ask. If I could find a program that worked around my schedule, I would do it.
Lindenwood Online. Responsive faculty, smooth registration, quality education. We have your answers.
All right, we're back with more of City Matters. And Mayor, there are a number of folks who all the time step up and say, hey, I want to help. What can I do to help? And there are a number of folks who have already come in and done different things. At this point, what would you say are the needs still that we can plug into, or people can plug into?
So, you know, the needs range everywhere from education to jobs. Some of them are immediate needs, such as assistance as we get into the cold season, assistance with things like utilities, repairs to their homes. We have, you know, people on fixed income, some of our aging members of our community who have homes, live in their homes, and can't afford to get their homes weatherized or fixed or repaired, especially with some of the maybe heating and cooling equipment in their homes. And so there's a broad spectrum of need out there, and we encourage anybody who has any of those resources available to help work with the city to meet those needs. Young people need help with education. And, you know, the city is not necessarily involved in the education of the citizens, but at the same time we can be and are trying to be partners with the school district to help support the educational process. It shouldn't just be between the school hours that kids are learning or supporting education. So the city is working with community partners right now to do mentoring and tutoring programs at our community center and at the public library. Some of the programs that we have right now through Youth Build and others to help do improvements to people's homes. You know, the city obviously doesn't typically go out and fix people's homes, but we have great partners that we work with to make sure we go out and help those residents who need those things fixed at their home, to need those improvements done to their home. We help connect them with those resources. And so anything that you can imagine that a resident, a person would need, there's somebody in the city of Ferguson that could use that help. And the city of Ferguson can connect you with them.
All right. I think one of the things that you've talked about a lot is about people being engaged, and about the need for people to be engaged, and I guess the fact that many people have stepped up to the plate. Well, what has that done that for the folks who have stepped up, and I guess maybe as an encouragement to other people?
Well, so there's so many more people that we see coming out to neighborhood association meetings than ever came out before, to come out to the city council meetings and become engaged. And it's important because as we move forward and make difficult decisions, residents need to understand what the thought process is, what the decision-making process is that our city officials are doing, and to be understanding and be a part of that, and so that they can give their input to that process. If people aren't giving their input to the process, then they're just going to end up living with the decision that gets made without them. But we want people to be engaged. We want to hear people's thoughts. It makes our job as the city leaders easier when we know what it is that the residents' priorities are, what are those things that they can't live without, and what are those things that they're willing to do to help keep the city moving forward. And so every resident that I've talked to who has been more engaged over the past year, they feel more confident in where the city is going. They feel more confident in knowing what's going on instead of just assuming or guessing or living, living with those assumptions. And so we encourage anybody to come out. There's many ways to get engaged in the community. All you have to do is call City Hall. We can point you in the right direction.
What is it, as you go around town, what do you hear now? I mean, there's still some people, I guess, that have not changed their minds about many things, but do you feel like there's a different mood or different conversation being had? You know,
I hear it every day when I go out to, whether it's Shop and Save, Sam's, Walmart, or just at the farmer's market. I hear more and more from residents just the positive attitude, that belief that we've been able to make it through some of the most difficult times, more difficult times than most cities or any cities really have dealt with, and that people feel good about where we are. Obviously, there's nothing that's done. And I think most people feel that, you know, there's still things to do, and I think everybody really feels that way. But I think a lot of people feel that there's been tremendous progress made. I think people feel good about the fact that with everything that we've endured, the community still seems strong. There's still positive attitudes out there. We're not overwhelmed with negativity. All of that, I think, is very encouraging to average residents, to business owners, and it's absolutely encouraging to myself. And I hear it every day out there. So there are people who, of course, may never be happy with what's happening. But the city leaders, we are committed to continuing those dialogues, to continuing that conversation, and to listening to what our residents want, and making those changes as we move forward.
When you talk about dialogue, I know personally that you've had some conversations with some of the main protesters, if you want to use that term.
Absolutely.
But some people who, you know, quite frankly, did not like you, did not like many of the other city leaders, and I know you've at least sat down to talk.
Absolutely.
How important has that been, just having those conversations?
You know, I think if somebody understands that you're willing to sit down and talk to them, that they get to know you, know your thought process, know your heart, I think people can come to at least a mutual respect most of the time that what I'm doing is trying to serve the community and work for the betterment of the entire community. The entire community doesn't agree with itself as to what direction we're moving forward. So obviously we're going to make a choice that some people are not going to be completely happy with, but we have to take into account everybody's thoughts. Even some of the most extreme ones, you know, we hear them out, we listen to them. There are good things that come from even some of the most extreme people that I've talked to. They've had some things that they've made great points, and we've worked forward on it. But you know, in general, I would say that the vast majority of the community, the vast majority of people I've met with, can at least respect the city's efforts in moving forward. You know, this country, this community, if you could get 60% of the people to agree on one thing, you're doing good. Yeah. I think in general terms, we're well beyond that number.
And you know, you're still here on the job. I mean, many people thought you'd have said, you know, I'm throwing up my hand a long time ago. The last question I think I really have is, why'd you stay? Why are you still here, Mark?
Well, it's the commitment that I made when I ran for office. You know, I never ran for office expecting it to be easy. I never ran for office expecting it to be all good days. But I never also expected this. Nobody really did. Right. But it is the commitment that I made. It is the community that I grew up in, and the community that I sincerely and dearly love. You know, I have a 5-month-old child now that one day I want him to grow up and live in this community, a community that is continuing to improve. I did not believe that leaving would serve any benefit to the community. I was encouraged by many people to stay. And I think that staying has made a net impact, a net positive impact on the community, because I've been committed from day one to being here and being a constant, stable voice, both for the citizens and for the employees. And I'm committed to doing that going forward.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate your insight. And that does it for this edition of City Matters. We'll see you next time.